is nice.
What's up guys, it's RevJ again. Behind me I've got the tubing we bent up in the last video, went ahead and got it laid out on a template and then had Jake bend it up for us. But to join this together with any of the bottom parts, hiding down here, there we go, I've got to notch the tubes so I can weld them. Now there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can use a grinder, you could use a file, which I think is crazy. So like anything, it was a great excuse to buy a new tool, and I went ahead and picked up this guy here. So this is the PN-1/2S tubing notcher, also known as the Amazon Prime Special. It's the top rated tubing notcher on Amazon Prime, and for 99 bucks, it seemed like a pretty appropriate solution for what I was trying to do. Now the biggest competition for this thing is the Harbor Freight unit, which is about 2/3 of the price, half the price. And the first thing I noticed is that the lower bracket on this thing, the main metal body and the lower adjustable bracket here, are a significantly thicker metal and apparently a little bit higher quality on this unit. Now, there is no name brand on it, all you have is the tag here denoting the model number, and one of the funniest things I noticed right away is that this sticker, man, is barely being held on there. I can kind of get my thumb behind it and see if it comes right off. Well, it flexes out pretty easily. When I zoom in, there we go, it just kind of comes right off. Nothing's really holding it on there but some dissolved glue. Doesn't matter though, because the brand, well, that's pretty much irrelevant. We've got the cast body here, which holds the stock or the shaft in place. That's being held by this retaining pin right now. Of course, this is what you would attach to your drill or drill press to go ahead and spin your hole saw. Now, of course, this is just the chuck. We don't have a hole saw on there right now, but I do have a kit of them, and we'll mount this up in a little bit and test it out. You've got your gauge down here for setting the base angle, as well as your tubing angle, which is right here, and I'll zoom in so you guys can see that, and the main clamp here, which retains the tubing. Now, it's important that those angles are fairly accurate, so you're able to get an accurate hole, obviously. This thing adjusts from 0 degrees, or 90-degree angle from the tube, all the way down to 60 degrees, which is pretty much as steep as I would need to go on anything like this. One of the more common complaints I have heard is that this shaft is a little short when you start to do the steep angles, but I'll have to actually test this thing out a little bit before I can comment on that. Alright, well, I was going to go ahead and mount the thing up on the drill press here. Figured I had a nice stable base and would work out pretty well. However, this thing, there's a little bit of wobble in there, and I don't want to trust it at the second. Gonna have to probably go ahead and maybe do a rebuild on the bearings for it, but you don't have to use a drill press. So I went ahead and mounted it up here on the table. Basically, I just moved the baby vise over there, still got the big one sitting here, and bolted it onto the table in the same place with a couple of larger bolts. It's not going anywhere. It's pretty solidly mounted. I have read that the more sturdy these things are mounted, the better you get in terms of consistency. And I went ahead and set the angle here. I've got a 30-degree angle set on this thing. Now, one of the other things that I heard about these was that this may need to be shimmed so that the tube actually lines up center on the sort of block here. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and mount up a piece of tubing and we'll see how off-center it is. And if we do need to shim it, we need to shim it. If not, great. I have heard this one is a little better than the Harbor Freight in terms of that, but I've still been warned that no matter what, you're gonna probably need to shim this thing to get it centered. And it's probably worth mentioning, we'll be cutting the hole today with a absolutely garbage Harbor Freight bit set. Chances are I will more than likely burn these out almost instantaneously on the first few cuts. I'm gonna try to hedge my bets and use some bar soap to lubricate them. That is my preferred way of doing that for things like hole saw.
All right, so here's what we're looking at in our stock configuration. It's actually pretty centered, but you can see it's offset here. We're biased a bit to the inside, so it needs to come out just a hair this way. As you can see there, we've got the extra material. I'm trying to get it as centered as I can here, and our bit overhangs. So I will need to shim this guy out just a little bit to go ahead and try to center that. Shouldn't be too bad. I've got some thin plate material and washers and stuff like that hanging out over here, so I will space that out just a little bit. We'll see if we can't get this centered, and then do the inaugural cut here, because I'm really excited to see how this thing works. Alright guys, that is the first test notch done. Let's see how we did here. Went through not too terribly bad, even with the shiesty bit. There is a lot of sort of chowdering here on the outside. Now, that could definitely be related to the fact that A, the bit sucks, B, I'm doing this with a DeWalt like handheld drill, corded, not cordless, and then my speed was kind of going up and down because this thing doesn't have a selectable speed control, just the trigger. So, that being said, this does look like it can be cleaned up. It'll full focus there. Obviously this can be filed back a little bit. The radius itself is actually pretty acceptable. Let's see if I can get down in here. There you go. You can see a little bit. It actually did go through at a pretty consistent angle. There was not an insane amount of side to side or front to back movement or anything. It is a pretty consistent radius all the way around here, which is actually great to see. Kind of lift up and back here so you guys can see. If we come down from the drill head angle here, yeah, I mean, you know, the shimming made a little bit of a difference. I don't feel like we're 100% perfect, but we're definitely close. Rotate around here and see how we did from this way. This was the way we were looking at it when we set the shims, and it's not perfect, but man, it's pretty close. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna pop this out of the vise here and clean up the end a little bit, and let's take a closer look at what our results are. Ta-da! Not too terribly bad. I did go ahead and just take down a file and hand file off some of those rough edges, and I also knocked down a little bit of that extreme sort of fish mouth. The material was real thin and pointy, so I just knocked it down. That's not going to do anything useful for us when welding. It's just going to burn away, so I took it down to a more reasonable angle there. You can see the actual notch is really... it's really pretty acceptable. It's actually fairly centered, more so than I thought it was. So I had this one set at 30 degrees just for the test cut here. And honestly, not too bad. Now we'll obviously need to cut this thing to the correct length and set the proper angle for the head tube and everything here before we go and make the final notch. But as a test, this isn't too bad. Let me go ahead and grab that. Where'd that head tube go that I had? Is it on the bench here? I'm sure it's somewhere here. Let me grab that thing and we'll see how it lines up into this fish mouth that we cut in this tube here. Dock it in the station. Not too bad at all. Not 100% perfect, but pretty good. Our gaps are even and minimal pretty much all the way around here as far as I can rotate with the camera in my hand. And that is totally acceptable for welding. I have no issue being comfortable with putting a bead on this. The thinnest area of material here, where it's sort of stretched away at the top, you know what? Cleaned up with the file, still fits pretty good. You can see a little less of a gap around the edges, but I'm okay with that. See if I can pivot it here to the bottom. And so honestly, for a pretty crappy bit in a handheld drill when it should be in a drill press, this really isn't too bad. I mean, the fit up there to the area slides in pretty comfortably there. You can see it's not, you know, binding or anything like that. The gap is the same all the way around. You can slide the tube in there. I am pretty happy with that, to be honest, which means I can go ahead and talk about getting this thing cut to the proper length, getting our angle set here at the head tube, and starting to make some progress welding this up for the drift trike. So that is the PN-1/2S Amazon Prime Special Tube Notcher. Guys, compared to the Harbor Freight one, this thing is a lot more robust. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive. 2-day shipping, that's always nice. And 99 bucks compared to what some of the pro grade tubing notchers go for is, to me at least, totally acceptable. A little bit of shimming for a cut that at least starts out as that good, I can live with it. If I had to do like hundreds of them for a cage, yeah, I'd want to go with something a lot faster and B, a little bit fancier, a little bit more stable. But you know what? If I got this thing mounted up to a drill press or to something at least more sturdy than this table, obviously I'm using a handheld drill, which is not ideal. But even considered sort of the most basic of garage circumstances, I got an acceptable notch on the thing and it'll work for me. That means we can move forward with the rest of this. But that's going to be another video, guys. What do you think of this thing? I definitely think you should consider it if you're looking at something cheap to use in your garage a handful of times for some DIY projects. It'll do up to 2-inch. We did it with absolutely garbage Harbor Freight bits. So under much better circumstances, I think it could perform even more reliably. Minor shimming, obviously your mileage may vary, but so far mine, the quality has been pretty good. Well, I'm looking forward to what I can do with it. There's a ton more coming on the drift trike, more from the C10 as spring sort of rolls around here. A lot more just on everything on the channel. The Yukon, Ryan's Firebird, we're doing some paint on that, and all sorts of other good stuff. So follow me on social media, guys. I'll have that here on the bottom of the screen. I'm rebuilding this. Use the hashtag rebuild everything on all your projects. Check those out on Instagram so I can check out all your posts, projects, and stuff like that. Give those a like or a shout out or whatever. As always, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there's anything you want to see. Put it in the comments below. Check out all the other videos. I don't know, guys. I'm rambling. I always do this. That means it's the end of the video. So we'll be back for more. I can't wait to weld this thing up. And honestly, 99 bucks, 2-day shipping. Not too bad. We'll see you next time, guys.